Yes,
Hey, we have sacrificed for years for,
I'm standing.
we always keep canceling. We've done it. at
Good
least for
evening.
19 years.
And welcome to this forum for the Huntington Woods City election. Today is September 16, 2015. This forum will be featuring the candidates who have filed for mayor, city commissioner. There are 2 candidates for mayor, a 4-year term. 4 candidates for 2 4-year terms, city commission seats, and 2 candidates to fill 1 partial 2-year term. Sponsor of this forum is the League of Women Voters, Oakland area. I am Jerry Burden, President of the League of Women Voters, and I am not a resident of the city of Huntington Woods. The League of Women Voters is a trusted, national, nonpartisan political organization. Our members do the hands-on work to safeguard democracy, while we never endorse or support any political candidate or party. We are directly involved in shaping the important issues that keep our community strong. As a League of Women Voters member, I have the opportunity to contribute in a leadership role such as this that has great impact on local, state, and even national issues. If you're interested in learning more about the League, I would encourage you to pick up some of our literature on the table outside the forum tonight, or visit our website, lwvoa.org. The League of Women Voters do not endorse any candidate or political party. Views expressed in this forum are those of the candidates, and the sponsors take no responsibility. The format for this forum has been established by the League of Women Voters. We ask that the audience remain silent during the forum. Please turn off all cell phones. We ask the candidates answer the questions with their views only and not interrupt another candidate. The candidates will be answering questions submitted by the audience and screened for duplication and appropriateness by John McGarry, a League member. Pages, Judy Bateman will be circulating with paper and pencils for your questions. Please turn your questions into the page. The format is as follows. All candidates will be given 1 minute for opening statements in alphabetical order, beginning with the 2 mayoral candidates, followed by the 4-year term city commission candidates, and finally the 2 candidates for the partial term. Closing statements will be in reverse order. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question in rotation unless the moderator extends the time. All candidates will be allowed equal time to answer all questions. Our timer, Lord Gagula, will signal when the time is up. The candidates for mayor, Robert Paul III, David Sloan. For the 2 4-year seats, Allison Iverson, Jeffrey Jenks, Aaron Sullivan, Louise Wiebelman. For the partial 2-year term, Tom Laurie and Joe Rozelle. We begin the opening statement with Mr. Paul, and we have 1 minute.
Thank you. I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum tonight. I'm Bob Paul, and I'm running for mayor. I would like to start by thanking Ron Gillum, who has been a long-time dedicated servant to the city of Huntington Woods for the last 34 years as our mayor. He has run a fair and very efficient administration that I would use as a template if I am elected your next mayor. During my 19 years on the commission, I have always taken the approach to keep an open mind on every issue, studying the material that's been presented to me, listening to residents, my fellow commissioners, and administration to come up with a final decision that I hope would be in the best interest of Huntington Woods as a whole. As mayor, I will continue this decision-making process in order to keep moving Huntington Woods in the right direction. A wonderful community it is. I would also like to thank all of you for attending tonight, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
I'm David Sloan, candidate for mayor. I thank the League of Women Voters for this forum. I'm a retired attorney and retail business owner and lifelong resident of the city. I believe Huntington Woods is a success story, not because of the government, but because of the residents. Our residents have high standards and expect the city to meet those standards. Those standards drove the creation of the kids programs at the rec center, senior activities, and our great library, to name a few. However, there is a recent trend away from this success through overreaching ordinances and a slow response to residents, such as last year's flood, when we needed the city's reassurance the most. I have walked this entire city, talked to hundreds of residents, and listened to their hopes and their worries. I think it's time to rebalance and focus on open communications, services, and our infrastructure.
Thank you. Ms. Iverson.
Hi, my name's Allison Iverson and I come here tonight as a resident, not someone with a political or governmental background, but someone who understands the city's issues at the ground level. As a mother of 4 children, 13, 11, 6, and 4, I am at the heart of our city every single day, at Burton, at the rec center, at the pool, at the library, and at the various parks. It was in the heart of the city that last summer I spent many hours collecting signatures to repeal the ordinance that shall remain nameless. Throughout that experience, residents from all sides gave me great encouragement and support and asked me to run for commission. Let me be clear, our city is a great city. We have many people to thank for that. We have had a very smooth ride. Over the last year, we have taken some unnecessary and not very scenic detours. The way I see it, we are simply in need of a course correction, and it's time to do that now. We need new, fresh leaders, and I think we'll be back on course in no time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jenks.
Hello, my name is Jeff Jenks. I've been your city commissioner for 16 years, including 4 years as the mayor pro tem. I've got the experience. This is not a program for common sense. I've sat on the planning, on zoning. I've taken educational courses at the national level and at the state level, especially in issue areas such as planning. I'm recognized as a leader. I'm currently the chair of the Southeast Michigan Council of Governments, serving 4.7 million people. And I'm past president of the Michigan Municipal League, representing all cities. I want to continue moving us forward. We have had national recognition repeatedly. Please re-elect Jeff Jenks and re-elect those people with experience. Thank you again.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
My name is Aaron Sullivan. I'm running for commissioner, and I want to thank all the residents who came out tonight and were watching on TV and taking part. By way of introduction, I've been living along the Woodward Corridor for 17 years since I moved here after finishing grad school and coming to work for General Motors. My wife and I moved to Huntington Woods around the time of the birth of our daughter because we were looking for a great community where we could take part. Since being here, we've joined the men's club, the women's league, been part of the babysitting co-op, and taken part in numerous rec center and Burton activities with our family. I think local government works best when it represents the diversity of the community. Personally, as an engineer and a father with a young family, I think that's a couple of ways I can add to that diversity, and I look forward to hearing your questions. Thanks, and thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting on this forum.
Thank you. Ms. Wiggleman.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Louise Wiggleman, and I'm very excited to be here with you this evening. I'm seeking a 4-year term as a city commissioner. I grew up in Berkeley, and I've been a resident of Huntington Woods since 1992, and I love this city. It's a wonderful place to raise a family. Its schools are second to none, and coming from Berkeley, I'm a Berkeley High School graduate myself. The city services and amenities are wonderful, but really it's our neighbors and the sense of place that makes the city what it is. I've had the opportunity to serve the city in a few different capacities. I served nearly 6 years on the Zoning Board of Appeal and currently serve as its chair. I was instrumental in saving Ragam Golf Course, and it is with the same diligence, commitment, and passion that I'll bring to this position as city commissioner. I'm fair and open-minded and believe that there's 2 sides to every issue, but information is what makes a well-educated decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lord.
I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum and each of you for attending tonight. My name is Tom Lurie. I'm married and have 3 great kids, John, Jacob, and TJ, who all attended Berkeley schools. I'm a teacher in Oak Park. I have a master's in business administration and a Juris Doctor degree. I've owned a small business and worked as an interim business manager. But most importantly, I've been an active and longtime resident of Huntington Woods. My first experience with Huntington Woods came in the mid-1960s. Our family often visited my aunt and uncle who lived in Huntington Woods. I loved the bike rides to the zoo and playing ball in the park. After getting married, we began looking for a place to raise a family. Mary White introduced my wife to a great little city with trees and sidewalks that had an English feel. She was sure that this is where we would live, and that's why I'm running for city commission, to pass that feeling on to others. My goal is to keep our community safe and family friendly.
Thank you. Mr. Roselle.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League for hosting this forum, as well as all of you who took time away from your very busy schedules to be with us, and those of you watching at home who are very interested in this important upcoming election. My name is Joe Roselle, and I'm running for the 2-year term on the City Commission. I'm hoping to put my experience, education, and energy to work for you as your voice on the City Commission. I've represented you on the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Woodward 5 Advisory Board for the last 11 years. Now I'm asking you to make me your voice on the City Commission. And while I'm bringing a new perspective to the City Commission, it's one that's grounded in having served the city over the past decade in various volunteer capacities. So I look forward to your questions this evening in this forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That ends the opening statements, and now we will have questions, and the candidates will have 1 minute to answer. Our first question will start with Mr. Paul, and I will extend a 1.5 minutes on this one because it looks like we're going to start with a good one. We have seen a large increase in water rates over the last few years. Do you understand what has occurred, and what do you believe the city can do to address the increasing rates? 1.5 minutes, Mr. Paul.
Thank you. This year's water increase is a 2-part increase. One is passing along the increase that we received from the water board. There's not a whole lot we can do about that, although we can look around the nation and see that the water rates that we pay in Detroit are actually very competitive to any water system throughout the country. We added, as your city commission, an additional charge on the bill this year that is going to help pay for the costs of cleaning and televising all of the sewer lines. Not that the flood back on August 11th is not an important issue, but in my opinion, the more important issue is some of the spot flooding that we've had since that event. And that is why we decided to spend in excess of $900,000 to do this. Once that is done, the cleaning and the televising of the lines, we'll have a very detailed report that will tell us a lot more about the condition of the sewer system. And from there, we can go forward with a plan to address those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan. And before Mr. Sloan starts, look at the camera, guys. I don't live here, I don't vote here, so you don't have to look at me. Look at the camera. The people are the ones that are gonna elect you. Mr. Sloan.
This year we have a new system with the water. We have the Great Lakes Water Authority, which has taken over the authority for the water in all 3 counties. This is a new system. It still has not been finalized. I'm dissatisfied with the water, and I've noticed that part of the new cleaning of the sewers, which is going to take 3 years, is part of this water bill. And I feel that we need to re-examine the rates that the city charges and the rates that all the other cities charge. We need to be in sync with the others. If Oak Park is less, then I think we should be at that same rate. We need to look at all expenses and charges for residents. This is just one of the items, like all the 7 other taxes that we get on our tax bill from the city.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
I believe that we can do a few things that would make an impact on the cost of our water bills. And first would be addressing things such as the amount that we had to add on in order to take care of the sewer issues. If we have a maintenance plan that is going to be for now and for the future, we're not going to experience a surprise like we experienced with our sewers this past August. So I believe if we make some efforts to try and take care of things so we don't have to tack on extra fees, that would be part of a solution. The other part would certainly be working with finding out what other communities are paying and how we can be competitive in getting a good rate for our community. Thank you.
Mr. James.
As being part of the South Oakland Water Authority as well as DeSaqua and Sacra, we actually pay lower rates for water than most other communities do. What the increase is that you will see on your bill is building up a larger capital fund. If you remember, there was something called the recession. When that recession occurred, it basically pushed down permanently the revenues that this city receives by $600,000 a year. We are basically taking funds to put into a capital reserve. Our sewer system, combined system with all the cities along 8 Mile, next to 8 Mile at first tier suburbs, is 70 to 85 years old. To replace it completely will cost about $330 a foot. It ends up, if you calculate it, about 1.5 million bucks a mile, and we have 52 miles of sewers. It would be great to go at high speed, but we can't. What we are doing is checking out now to see what is wrong. We will then move forward. We have always been saving capital funds, but during the recession, every community moved backwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
I can't add to the factual statements. They're clear and they're very good. We're spending more money to do maintenance. It's something we need to and should be doing, and it's value added to the community. I wasn't part of the sourcing of that work, so I can't say we're getting the absolute best price on it, but I do appreciate that it's being done. As an engineer, I'd like to lend my experience and help out in making those decisions, and I think there's more to do with the sewer system, frankly. As was stated, what's being done right now doesn't really address the August flood, it addresses the spot floods that were last April. I think we need to take a look at how we can address the August floods, and I'd appreciate the opportunity to work on that.
Thank you, Mr. Cleveland.
I think that the maintenance plan that the city has right now for the sewers is a good one. It's very hard, as we know, to plan for a 1 in 300 year flood. We'll all be long gone before another flood like that happens. So I think that it's reasonable, and it was a thoughtful plan. They're going through the city, and they're also looking at the areas where there's been pop-up flooding to help make sure that they can alleviate some of that water. But as we know, this area used to be a swamp, so we're going to have perpetual water issues that we just need to keep on top of.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
Well, first of all, I'll get back to the original question, which was about the increase in the water rates. First of all, I found out something very interesting attending one of the commission meetings. Tony Lehman said that our water usage was decreasing, and because of our decrease in water usage as a community, we were paying at a higher rate. It seemed a little astounding to me that we would suddenly be paying more for using less. Because one of the things I told my kids when the rates started going up is little shorter showers would help out a little bit. But as they say, we're not really under control. We have to work with organizations like the Michigan Municipal League and SEMCOG to have to put pressure on the Great Lakes region water system. So those are the things that our city could do. Now, a little bit about the sewer. One of the concerns that I have about the sewer is that we had a maintenance plan in place to help keep the roots out of the sewer system. And at some point, very recently, that, before the flood, that system was abandoned. I think it was because of the lack of funds. But we need to revisit an ongoing maintenance system. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rozell.
So the rate increase is basically two pieces. One rate that gets pushed on us by what now is the Great Lakes Regional Water Authority, formerly Detroit Water and Sewer Department. And then the additional rate increase to cover the necessary maintenance to the sewer line. So the question is, how can we bring these rates down? What other communities have done is you can purchase water at peak times and non-peak times from DWSD. Other communities have purchased water at non-peak rates and then pushed that water into the system during peak times so that the community can save a significant amount of money by acquiring water at non-peak rates directly from the Great Lakes Water Authority. So there are opportunities for us to save money. I would also support, obviously, examining our sewer maintenance program after this 2-year period is over and determining then how to proceed. Can we bring the rates back down if the maintenance turns out that it wasn't as bad as we initially thought? Or do we need to perhaps ask the voters for some type of bond or millage to make repairs, because the sewer system could have been damaged by the force of this water that pushed back from Madison Heights into our system, which we won't know until we go through this process. So I think we have a couple opportunities to examine water rates and maybe bring them more into line with what folks are accustomed to.
Thank you. Next question, we will start with Mr. Sloan. Do you understand the dynamics of Proposal A, which was ushered into existence in 1995? And do you have a working knowledge of the pop-up and its impact on the city?
Yes, Proposal A that was passed in 1994 was the one that set our rates on our houses that would not go higher than the rate of inflation. And that has allowed us to have a lower tax bill, though when the house is sold, then there is a balloon, and the balloon will be used and have to be paid by the new owner of the house. And that is the pop-up that comes from that. It's, some call it a balloon. And this is the problem that you have in selling real estate, that the new owners, all of a sudden, they learn that. And the other thing that Proposition A did was it took away tax revenues from the schools from local areas, and instead the state is the one that divvies out the taxes to the school districts.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
I wish that I could give you a good answer on this question, but I will have to tell you, in 1995, I was in Oregon, and that's where I lived until 1997 when I moved to Michigan. So I won't try to make up something to sound good, but I will tell you that I do not have an answer to that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenks.
Prop A basically put a cap on your real estate as it relates to dealing with people in our budget, our general fund, which is roughly $5 to $6 million a year. It said you couldn't raise it above 20 mils, and then every year you basically get pushed down based upon what your housing sales are. We are in a situation where it's inflation or 5%. There has been zero inflation, so we have not basically been able to raise the revenues that we need. Our revenues are roughly at 2003 as it relates to the amount of money coming in, and we will never catch up with that. When a home is sold, the city, actually someone pays more for that home, the city has to lower its total rate to everybody, so we don't get any more money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sutherland.
Not sure how I can add to the factual question. I do have personal experience with it. I think I've been popped up 4 times. I don't know any more to add to it than that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Aaron said. I do know just a very little about Prop A. I know that in some instances, taxes will have, will see a reduction, and I've experienced that a couple of times myself. But other than that, I need to do the research. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
Okay, again, it's been fairly well covered, though as a teacher, in a public school, I've seen some of the effects, just like we would in the city, where your expenses are increasing, but because the taxes have really been, leveled off with very slow rates of increase, it's very difficult sometimes to operate, especially in times where costs are increasing due to healthcare costs or whatever else, and you're limited. And in the case of Huntington Woods, another thing that was kind of cut back was profit sharing, essentially, with the state government, where they were sending some of the money to the cities, and that's been cut drastically because, again, the state has their own financial constraints.
Thank you, Mr. Lord. I'm sorry, Mr. Rozell.
Thank you. Proposal A was a constitutional amendment that the voters passed in 1994 to essentially fix a school funding problem. Schools were shuttering their doors because they couldn't operate any longer based on the property taxes. So Proposal A was passed by the voters. Essentially, how it's affected the city is when the economy went down, values fell, but now that the economy seems to be rebounding and values are improving, the city's revenue is limited to, as Mr. Sloan pointed out, a rate of inflation or 5%, whichever's less. So it's going to take us longer to realize some of the higher values that folks are seeing when they sell. The other thing it does is it, in essence, creates sort of an inequity, whereas one house may be paying $5,000 in property taxes, but the neighbor is paying $10,000 based on when they purchased that house and how long they lived there. That's essentially my understanding of Proposal A.
Thank you. Next question will start with Ms. Iverson.
Mr.
Gary.
I'm sorry, Mr. Paul.
I think we have a pretty good explanation on the table. I just want to expand a little bit on what Commissioner Jenks was talking about right at the end of his comments, and how that the pop-up is not captured by the city of Huntington Woods. Part of that has to do with the Headley amendment that still is also in effect, which caps the amount of money that the city of Huntington Woods or any city is allowed to collect. So if there is a pop-up on one home and the city would collect an additional, let's just say $100 from that pop-up, because Headley doesn't allow the city to collect any more money overall, in fact, every other home in the community gets a reduction for the amount of that increase. So what the combination of Prop A and Headley has done to the city is not allowed us to capture these pop-ups, which has reduced the amount of funding that we can get.
Thank you. Now let's start with Ms. Iverson. Are there any board decisions made in the past several years that you have disagreed with?
Yes, there are a couple that I have disagreed with. Last summer, we had the tree ordinance. That was a decision that was passed with very little public knowledge, and that was what most upset me about the tree ordinance. I believe that we have other avenues for solving some of these problems. I have a lot of ideas that I look forward to sharing with the residents. The other idea that has come up and has passed is the historic district. That passed about 10 years ago. We actually have an existing historic district. And I disagree with that decision as well. I think that we really need to focus on what our residents need from us, not in passing burdensome restrictions on our residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. James.
There are actually two historic districts in the city. I sponsored the second one. You know it as the golf course, Rackham Golf Course. You voted $200,000 for legal support, and many of you donated an additional $100,000. Sometimes we need to protect ourselves. The second thing is the tree ordinance. It sounds crazy. It was worked on by committees for 7 years. It was approved unanimously by approximately 5 committees and 50 residents before it came to the commission itself. We've been recognized as a tree city for 29 years. When you want to solve a water problem, part of what you do is you use trees to drink up that water. Those little trees, when they get big, each drink up 40 gallons of water. Finally, Ann Arbor, Bloomfield Township, Dearborn, Farmington Hills, Groseal, Troy, a whole bunch of cities have tree ordinances.
Thank
And we'll be back to that later.
Mr. Sullivan.
It seems like we've jumped right into the heat of it here, so. When it comes to the tree ordinance, I love trees. I think they're gorgeous. I have many on my property. I plan to plant more on my property. I don't feel the need to track them to the inch. I think a tree works best when it grows. I don't think it's necessary to replace a full-size tree with several nearly full-size trees. I think it represents a situation where people have become so ingrained with a small group of people talking to them about a particular issue that they don't see the larger community's interest. And I think the larger community's interest is served by having trees, but is also served by not having them put on them in a burdensome ordinance. I think we can all agree that we want to do these things together. As far as the historic district goes, I have an old house, 1927. I love it. I will keep it beautiful forever. I don't need another committee to tell me what to do with it.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggum.
I think I'm going to be another voice here for the tree ordinance. Although it was a result of a citywide survey and vetted through a lot of committees, I do think that it was a good thing that it went away. It was a little, seemed to be a little punitive. I have some very old, large trees on my lot. My daughter sat in her bedroom and watched a big limb fall right in front of her. So big that she told me she couldn't even move it. To that I said, why did you try? Anyway, the city has won lots of awards and accolades. It's a great place to live. It's Caldwell Banker and other entities have they've identified Huntington Woods as one of the best places to live, and I agree. I think the City Commission has done over the years a wonderful, wonderful job.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie.
Thank you. I'll jump on board. The tree ordinance was probably a mistake. There was conversation about expanding the current historic districts. I feel that entertaining that at this time is a mistake. I feel that there's been action against a small group of residents that have right-of-way parking that I think went too far and was too aggressive. We had a noise ordinance in the city which protected especially our residents that live along the zoo, and the city commission took it upon themselves to grant some exemptions. I'm looking at the signs too now. Grant exemptions to some of the noise ordinance. Hopefully we can revisit some of those things in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roselle.
Thank you. It's tough kind of being here on the end to bring up new things, but I would echo the tree situation as well. We have a great tree canopy here, tree-lined streets. The residents clearly value trees as an asset here. And so I think that even though despite there was a survey, where a significant part of the city said that they wanted tree protection, I think that maybe the ordinance was a little too punitive, and so I would probably look at that as something that I may disagree with.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
As part of the board, it's hard to say that I can disagree with the decisions we made. Most of the time, the commission does pass unanimously our decisions. I know that the tree ordinance in specific came to us with overwhelming support and unanimous support from both the planning and the BART board. We had a lengthy discussion at the first commission meeting, and we had reservations about it in that discussion. However, we did see the general good meaning behind it and passed it. We immediately heard from the residents of the community after that asked the city manager not to put it into effect at the next meeting. We put a moratorium on it as a commission and sort of held a public hearing right at the city commission level to discuss it and to inform people about it. And eventually we did repeal the ordinance. So I would say that was certainly a mistake the first time around.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
In October 2004, this commission voted 3-1 to establish the Hill District, Historic District of 108 homes, despite the fact that a petition was presented to them with over 60% of the residents saying they did not want it. So this commission interrupted democracy and imposed their will on the majority.
Thank you. And the next question will start with Mr. Jenks. And due to the fact that historic district has came up, I've got 5 questions on historics. I'm gonna give you a minute and a half and I'm gonna try to paraphrase. Do you favor a study to determine whether it should be saved or scrapped? Who will work to limit or repeal? Do you believe the property values will rise or fall? And why was it established? We'll start with Mr. Jenks.
Thank you very much.
So you can say anything you want to about the historic.
The purpose of the establishing a historic district was to preserve unique qualities and characteristics of homes in this city. Very frequently, realtors come along, they tear down a home, they put in the largest box that they can, and if there are no rules, they would put the air conditioner underneath your bedroom. The guidelines that we follow are set by the Secretary of the Interior. They are not things that we create. And I walked every single home, and if someone was home, I talked to them. And I actually took a 1-year course at Michigan State, the Citizen Planner, because I wanted to make sure that I was not hurting people, even if I was good intentioned. Property values go up in historic districts. There are loads of studies that deal with that. We need to do a study of the residents in this historic district and ask what they feel. The first study, 2.5 to 1 were in favor of it. And when I talked to people and they found out the real facts, they supported it as well. We did not get a petition with the majority of people opposing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
So we're talking about 2 historic districts. There was a proposal last year to add on, or I should say a request to study and add on. I live in that area. I don't live in the area of the existing historic district. When that came up, I did my own research, and there are numerous studies on historic district values. And what you'll find is that they range from 0% improvement in home values to something around 19 to 20% improvement in home values. If you look a little deeper at those studies, and I'll have to extrapolate with my opinion here, but I believe what you'll find is where those historic districts separate the houses from the surrounding properties in terms of improving the quality of the homes versus the surrounding neighborhood, they add value. It only makes sense. In Huntington Woods, we are already elevated in value above everybody around us. Adding an additional historic district is not going to benefit the homeowners in terms of house value. And I think that's been proven by the real estate agents in the neighborhood. As far as tear downs go, I'm not a proponent of tearing down and putting in Bigfoot houses. We have lots of zoning ordinances that prevent parts of that. If we really need to take more action on tear downs, let's write something specific about tear downs and not create additional ordinances that do even more than that. And as far as the existing historic district, I talked to the residents before I made any changes to where they live and how they're doing. I'm speaking of adding additional houses to the historic district. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wimbledon.
The Russell Historic District was a result of a lot of time, energy, volunteer hours, and research being done on every single one of those houses. The report found many significant houses in that area. Some architectural masters built houses in that area. Minoru Yamazaki, who is most well known for the World Trade Center, Eero Saarinen, who was a very famous architect. The house in this district is his first residential commission, and then also Albert Kahn, who built a house for his parents in the historic district. You hear a lot of things about how restrictive it is. However, if you're outside of the historic district, you go to the planning commission. If you're in the historic district, you go to the HDC, Historic District Commission. They act as a planning commission for that area, and there actually is a little bit more leeway in the historic district than outside of it. If you are against historic districts, then you're also against Rackham Golf Course. That was a very highly supported effort by many people, some of them in this room. So it's really hard to have it, it's good in this instance and it's bad in this instance. Huntington Woods is very attractive because of the old houses and the character, and that which pulls people into the city.
Thank you. Mr. Moore?
Well, first of all, I really like the idea of studying the current historic district to find out what exactly is going on with the people who live in that historic district. As a matter of fact, I recall being at some of the meetings a long time ago now, about 2004, when it was established, the first historic district was established, and there was generally a feeling that, hey, a year from now, because this is a pilot, we're going to test this out, we're going to come back to this. A year from now, we're going to do a survey, and we're going to do a study, and we're going to find out how those people feel about it. Unfortunately, that was never done. So now we're back to the situation where we're talking about expanding the district to prevent expansion in the city, all kinds of things along those lines. And we already have a lot of rules through the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals that has a lot to do with what goes on in our community as far as development is concerned. And I actually sat in a meeting of the Historic District, and there was a non-contributing home that was up, and I actually found that the people were turned down very quickly for a wide range of reasons. One of them was for a tree that they wanted to move from one location to another, and somebody felt that the tree may die, and therefore we should not grant them what they had asked for.
Thank you. Mr. Roselle?
If you elect me as your city commissioner, one thing you'll learn pretty quick is I'm open to discuss anything. I have no agenda. And so I would come into this with an open mind. I've studied this. Looking at national reports, it shows that the 5 to 20%, like Mr. Sullivan mentioned, is about the increase in value in historic districts. But I also looked at the state equalized value within our historic district and compared it outside of the historic district. In every year but one, the value within the historic district was higher than that value outside, and the sales were higher within the historic district than outside. So before I would look at repealing the historic district, I think we need to have a town hall with the folks that are in there and conduct a survey and find out what's working, what's not working, what can we revise. It would be a tough sell under state law to establish a committee of preservationists, do a preliminary report, and do a final report to the state of Michigan that says essentially the historic district has completely changed its character from when it was originally established. That will be a tough sell. But I'm not opposed to looking at anything. And so that's why I would recommend a town hall where folks can come in after a new commission is here, and we'll decide the best course of action. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul?
I I am always excited to get more information about any subject, so I would certainly be in favor of doing a study to see what exactly is going on in the historic district and what the people that live there think about it. As a matter of fact, we made a promise earlier this year after the Historic District Commission made the request to look at expanding the historic district, that we do have a town hall meeting and invite those residents in the proposed area that they wanted to study to the meeting before we authorized anything, just to get their feedback on the issue. As part of that, administration has been working on that, and as part of that, they are doing a survey of the existing 108 homes that are in the historic district, to get their opinion, to get their feedback from how they've been treated at the Historic District Commission, if they've had any interaction. And that'll be all useful information that will be presented in the town hall meeting, once everything is collected. I think we talked about why it was established. That's good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
I believe absolutely there should be no expansion of the historic district. The citizens already respect the character. They don't need another layer of bureaucracy. They do a wonderful job updating, and people are entitled to improve their property. Being in a historic district actually adds no value to the homes. In fact, it makes it more difficult to sell. Ask any real estate broker, because they have to tell them that they are in the historic district and they can't do anything to the outside of their house without going before a committee, whether it be doors, windows, shutters, gutters, downspouts, landscaping, roof, any of that. So it makes it more difficult. I've walked through the entire district and I've talked to most of the folks there, and they are very unhappy that they are restricted. So I believe there should be absolutely no expansion to the additional 800 homes that they have indicated, the staff has indicated that they wanted to do. And also I want to correct one item, and that is on Rackham. Rackham was decided by the Court of Appeals in the case of Huntington Woods versus the city of Detroit. And it was the Court of Appeals that said, because of the restriction, it will stay a golf course or a park.
Thank you. Ms. Iverson.
So I would also like to say that just because I'm against historic districts, I think Rackham was an occasion where it was used well, but it was not a residential area. I guess I don't have an open mind about historic districts because under no circumstance will I ever agree or vote for a historic district expansion in this city. The interesting thing about studies and statistics is you can often find studies and statistics that prove the absolute opposite is true. I looked at a study that was done by Clarkson University in Boston, Massachusetts. They did a 7-year study of historic districts and found that local historic districts decreased in value by 11 to 15.5%. But we have a study here. So we can look at our existing district and we can see what's happened there. We can see that people have not done updates because they will have to pay extra money in order to do those updates. Some people are on fixed incomes and cannot afford to refurbish their windows. There is a couple that just recently was denied because they're non-contributing resource. Now we've been told that many of our homes are non-contributing resources and they won't really be affected by this. Well, tell that to the couple who came in here and were denied because their new design of their facade was going to change the streetscape. I don't have an open mind and I will never support a historic district.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Sullivan, and we'll change the tone a teeny bit.
Oh, come on, let's change it, Bob.
And I'm gonna combine a couple of other questions too, but they're all on the same issue. What is your voting record on city council and school board elections? What city community activities have you been involved in or sat on? And what do you offer residents on these commissions?
think since I moved to Michigan, I've probably voted in 90% of all the elections. And if I ever attempt to not vote, my wife makes sure I come out and do it. So there's that one. Let me see. What have we participated in? Well, the first thing we did when we moved to Huntington Woods was join the babysitting co-op. Spent, I don't know, 5 years, social, active. My wife got engaged in the Women's League. I got engaged a couple years ago in the Men's Club. I can't list all of the activities we've taken part in the rec center, and I'm missing the last question.
How would these help you be a commissioner?
As I said in my opening comments, I think experience in the community is what helps you be a good commissioner, and understanding where the broad community stands on issues. And the more time you spend with people, the more you can do that.
Thank you, Ms. Weebelman.
As I said also in my opening statement, I've been a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the last 6 years, currently serving as a chair. I did lead the effort on the Rackham Golf Course Historic District and was on that study committee. I did serve on the Historic District Commission of the original district, original Hildreth District, and was also appointed by the City Commission as a part of that study committee. In 2010, I was selected as Citizen of the Year, which something of which I'm very proud of. We also conducted for 3 years in a row and sold out every single time a historic district trolley tour. My 3 kids are have been in school since the very beginning in the Berkeley school district. So many Girl Scouts, preschool, and other activities associated with the school.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
Thank you. First of all, let me say, I think my voting record's great. And I mean by that is I've pretty much voted the way I expected to vote along the way. I've only missed 1 election since I've been here. My son was being born, and it wasn't expected, so I did not apply for an absentee ballot. Committee activities. I served on the traffic control committee. I used to help organize part of the 4th of July parade, the bike park. We used to decorate the bikes and take the kids to the parade. I used to drive the senior transportation and sometimes the latchkey bus. I really got an opportunity to meet a lot of our seniors, to find out a lot of the struggles that they're going through and trying to stay in their homes, and to share some extra services with them from time to time. I helped build what is now the Old Burton Park. I was part of that building group. My kids also attended Berkeley schools and did Boy Scouts and other activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rozelle.
My parents were never really political people, but they did always take me with them when I was a child to vote. And I was always fascinated by the big lever voting machine where they would go in behind the curtain and throw the lever. And it really had an impact on me and being involved in voting. And I've never missed an election since I was 18. And so when I go to vote November 3rd, it will not be my first time voting for mayor or city commission. I vote in city elections, I vote in school elections, because even though I don't have any children in the district, I know that having quality schools is important. I've served on the planning commission from 2004 to 2010, the zoning board from 2010 to 2015, the Woodward 5 study group. I think it taught me how to make tough decisions, how to treat residents fairly, how to apply the rules fairly. I also referee high school football and basketball, and I think that's kind of taught me you have a set of rules, you treat everybody the same, not everybody likes your decision, but at the end of the day you go home knowing you did the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
I've served on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, the Citizen Advisory Board on Public Safety Consolidation, the ZBA, the Planning Commission, 19 years as your city commissioner. I've been a visioning facilitator for the Parks and Rec. I've served on the Woodward Avenue Steering Committee. I believe that board and commission involvement is very important. Not only does it expose you to a lot of people in the community, where you get a lot of ideas about what's going on, but it helps you to build a process of making decisions, which makes you a better commissioner in the end. My voting record, you will find I have never missed a municipal election. It will be 100%. I'm afraid I can't quite join Mr. Rozell on 100% on school board because I think I did miss one several years back where I was two unopposed candidates and I did not vote. I'm not thrilled with that. I think voting is very important. I think that anyone that wants to be involved and wants to have an opinion should vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
I first moved to the city in 1959. So I've been aware of voting when I was legally able to do that. And even my mother took me into the voting booth when I could not, though I did not press the button. I have been involved with many community activities in the entire community. I'm on the Environmental Advisory Board, and the reason why I'm on there is because of flood issues and sewer issues, and I want to learn about that, and I want to try to establish areas that we could help the residents. I also run a lot of meetings. I'm the president of the United Nations Association of Greater Detroit, and I've been involved in many other nonprofit organizations, and I ran the July 4th family softball game for a number of years.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
So as well, I have definitely been voting in every election that we've had as far as the school bond. Recently, I voted in favor of that, of course. As far as my contribution to the city, it looks a little different than some of my fellow candidates. With an active family of 6, I have my hands full. We've been concentrating on raising our kids. But I've actually contributed in that way. My husband and I have increased the population of Huntington Woods by 4. And so therefore that means more money to preschool, to fruit camps, to swim team, to pool memberships, to sports, Boy Scouts, dance classes, Burton, and PTA. But my current what I have done for Huntington Woods list looks a little bit more like a mommy blog than a resume. It does not disqualify me for being a good candidate for commission. As my children are getting older now, I have the time to give back to the community. And after the exhaustive work researching and relaying facts about these certain special interest ordinances, many people have encouraged me to run. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. James.
I started out because I was a numbers person in one of my prior jobs and realizing 10 to 15 years ago, starting with the 2000 election and census and the 2010 census, that if you can pump up the numbers in a city, that's permanent dollars coming in. So I helped get Huntington Woods treated a little bit differently because we are different than the adjacent communities in pumping up the numbers. I served on the Library Commission for 6 years, 2 years as chair. I then joined the City Commission, and I've been here for 16 years. I'm a member of the Men's Club. I've been legislative liaison for 10 years to Washington as well as to Lansing, and I helped in getting $1 million grant at the 11 Mile and Coolidge reconstruction. I've done other things as well.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Wiebelman, and we'll have a short one. Do you favor of opening a dog park?
Oh, the number of people who walk by my house around this city every single day. I think that having had 2 dogs myself, know the importance of exercising them, not always on a leash. Some of our backyards are really very small. I would be in favor of it, although I'm really not sure where we would be able to put that. I think although we have a lot of parks, they're very limited. Some of them are very specific. They have too many too much playground equipment. They're too close to houses, and I know there may be some people concerned with the maybe an odor of remnants from the dogs running around in the park.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
Well, that's probably the toughest question of the evening. Like Miss Williman, I used to live across the street actually from that. And she probably, I don't know if she remembers, we used to have 2 dogs. And I think it would be a great thing to have in the city. I know it's been studied extensively already. And there were a number of issues in having a dog park. Again, I think if there was a place that we could find to do something like that was safe for the community and for the dogs. I know somebody looked at one of the parks, I think along Coolidge, and there was some concern that the dogs may get out of the fenced-in area and run into Coolidge. And I know there was quite a bit of discussion about it at one time, so I would favor looking at it. But
Thank you, Mr. Rozell.
Now, Callie and Muna would love a dog park. And as I've been knocking on doors and talking with residents, this has come up a few times. And so I would be in favor of a dog park. I think it's just the location. And so, you know, where would it go? How big would it need to be? How safe could we make it, as some of the other candidates have pointed out. So I think to answer the question, the answer is yes, I would be in favor of it, with the caveat, we need to find a suitable location.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
Absolutely, I'd be in favor of it, but unfortunately, none of our parks in Huntington Woods are big enough to do a proper job of having a dog park. I think our efforts would be better spent on convincing the county to bring a dog park to one of the parks closer to Huntington Woods.
Mr. Sloan.
I definitely agree with Mr. Paul. This summer, I knocked on every door in the city and I met every dog. Visually or orally. We have a lot of dogs, and I believe most of them are not licensed. We could use people to license their dogs. The purpose of a dog park is for socialization of dogs and not for doing their business. And you have to consider all the expense of fencing around a dog park too. I know there's one in Royal Oak, I've seen it it's off of Crooks Road, but I don't think we have a facility that would be proper to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
Yes, I had a dog for a very short period of time when I had my 3rd child and realized that might have been a little difficult, so we sent him to a real farm in Virginia. But what I would like to consider is how we could get one closer to us. I did go to the one in Royal Oak many times with my beagle. He needed the exercise. And so I would certainly be in favor of considering bringing it closer, but it does seem like it would be something that might be a little bit too large to find a place here.
Thank you, Mr. James.
I agree with Bob Paul. The idea is wonderful. I grew up with dogs. You need a lot of space. And one of the reasons you need space is not all dogs are friendly towards other dogs. And everybody would have a right to be able to use that park. We probably have more dogs than we have space for them. I also agree with the idea that the county maybe should make some space available, and the county commissioner is sitting in the back, and I share that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
I dare say I think we're almost unanimous here. I have a dog. My daughter would love to take him to a dog park. And a dog park's lots of fun. But being very close to the zoo and deciding to live there, knowing full well what I was in for, I would be concerned about dropping a dog park in a park without sufficient buffer space around it next door to somebody's house. I agree that there probably isn't the space. If there was some future redevelopment where we could make the space, where there could be a buffer zone, where it could be separated from the houses, that, you know, that there might be a reason there, but I can't see where that would be right now. But I could be educated.
Thank you. We have a note from the audience that they would like you to speak into the microphones. We have people out in the lobby that can't hear you. I guess we have speakers out there. Next question, we will start with Mr. Laurie. If elected, will you be accessible to the community on a regular basis? And will you have time to address your constituents' needs? Does your outside employment interfere with your council duties?
Well, thank you for the question. I have already tried to be very accessible. My phone number's been published. I've received a lot of phone calls already. My email, I even got a compliment from one of the people that sent me an email that I responded very quickly. If I don't have the answer to a question, I would probably still respond to somebody right away, acknowledging that they had contacted me and assure them that I would get back to them once I had done my due diligence in answering any of their questions. I do have employment. It is nearby, and I do have a responsibility to that. I'm sure you would understand if you sent your child to school and your child's teacher was doing something other than what they were hired to do, that you would be very upset. So, in that regard, I wouldn't drop everything to run back to the city. I would fulfill my obligations to my employment as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rozell.
I'll tell you, campaigning is hard work. And I have been out door knocking every night of the week and on weekends, meeting residents. And I'll tell you, if I've got the time to do that, I've got the time to sit up here and represent you folks with your concerns on the city commission. And one of the things I thought about doing was a cup of Joe with Joe. Having an opportunity for folks to come in and make myself available 1 or 2 weekends a month for a few hours, and you can come in and share concerns that you have. So we're all busy people today, but I'm very confident that I would be able to continue on the city commission and not have any conflicts. I serve on the zoning board of appeals now, and it takes a lot of time to read the packet, go out, view the properties, study the appeals that are before you, and I kind of look at that as similar to what my role would be as a city commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Paul.
I do feel I'm accessible. My phone number, my email address is out there. I'm very involved with the men's club, so I get a lot of comments from them. I am fortunate enough to be a business owner where I do have flexibility in my schedule, so when I do have a demand at the city level, I can make time to come here and do that, so.
Thank you. Mr. Sloan.
I want to spend the time with the residents. I'm a retired attorney and business owner of a retail business, and I want to have coffees once a month at the rec center. Everyone come in, talk about their ideas and anything they want to discuss to get closer to the residents. I believe the communication needs to be tightened up, and we should embrace all the kinds of communication and interchanges that we can have with the residents, from all the different kinds of technology to even liaisons in neighborhoods with those who might not have computers. But it's talking to the residents. I've knocked on every door in the city, and I want to be available all the time.
Thank you. Ms. Iverson.
I certainly believe that most of our residents would agree that they should get a response within 24 hours, some response, whether it's by email or telephone. I am a stay-at-home mom. I have 2 older children that I homeschool, so they're independent learners, and I have 2 young children, one at Burton and one at the preschool. So I do have time available in my day. I can make time to contact residents and speak with them about their concerns, but I'm also in the city every single day, picking up and dropping off and going to activities with my children. So I would definitely be accessible to the residents.
Thank you. Mr. Jenks.
I've been retired for 16 years. I work 24/7 on trying to make government better at all levels and setting policy which is good. The SEMCOG opportunity gives me a chance to see what is being done across the United States. The Michigan Municipal League across the state.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
full-time engineer. I have a job, I have a family to support. I do those things. I have a second business. I'm choosing Huntington Woods. I love the city, I love the residents, and I'd like to take part in this activity to support this city. I'm willing to give up some of the other activities I do in order to make that possible. I strive to be efficient in everything I do, and I believe I can add this and respond to the residents' needs in a timely manner and do a great job. I think my daytime work is an asset to me. It challenges me every day to be a better leader, to be a better engineer, to be more involved, and I think that helps me do more in the community and would help me do more on the council.
Thank you, Ms. Weebelman.
I would not be sitting up here tonight if I did not want to be accessible to the residents in Huntington Woods. My 3 children are grown, 2 in high school, 1 in college, so that affords me a little bit more flexibility from my nighttime home duties to be able to be involved in other things, such as all the commissions and boards that I've served on. I've never had a problem. Lucky for me, my employment, as my full-time employment as a fundraiser is very flexible. So being able to handle the duties of the job, whether they're early or late, would not be a problem at all.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Mr. Rozell. What role do you think diversity has in Huntington Woods? What measures can the community take to be inclusive?
I'm very proud to live in Huntington Woods because of its diversity. Huntington Woods has a reputation of being a very progressive community, and I think stands out in Southeast Michigan as one of the communities who has been on the forefront of inclusiveness and diversity within the city. And so certainly, as a member of the City Commission, I would do everything in my power to promote inclusiveness and continue what the people of this city want, and that is a diverse community.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
I think diversity is very important, not only in the people in our community, but in the housing stock. I think it is very important that we keep smaller homes along with our larger homes. We need to have young families be able to afford to move into the city so that we constantly have young and old people in our community. We have very diverse programming that we do through the rec center and the library. I think our city does a wonderful job of accepting everyone and presenting itself to everyone. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
Through my entire time living in the city, we have had the most diverse city. I think we need to celebrate our entire diversity. I think we should have an ethnic fair. Troy has one. I think we should celebrate everybody in the city, and that's another way to bring the community together, and that's what's important. It's the residents here that are important, and we need to all come together. And with the retirees, we have a large percentage of retirees that need help, and we have a lovely crop of young families with children. The city has been expanding, so we need to celebrate that diversity.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
Something that really surprised me last summer when I was working on collecting signatures for the tree petition, the repeal, were the number of people that I met and the number of different backgrounds that people had. The kindest people. I really was actually quite surprised because we get so used to being in our own world. When I got out and started talking to people, the number of people, the number of different backgrounds. I think that our city is fantastic and that it is so diverse, and I think we should continue to be accepting of all people, all home styles, all various opinions on decisions. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenks.
Obviously, I support diversity. That was my career before I retired. I find that actually the number of minorities in the city is relatively low, but slightly higher than some of the communities around us. I do think that we have to continue to welcome people. There are no problems when people come to our city. Sometimes they just don't know about it. I think one of the diversities that we have to do better at is making sure that young people have opportunities in here, people with families have opportunities, seniors, and all of the different generations. I work towards that. We look at that when we select members for boards and commissions, but it depends on each of you as well.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, in my everyday work life, diversity is a cornerstone of our hiring practices because, you know, as a General Motors employee, we sell cars to anyone and everyone, and your minority or non-minority status is irrelevant, and we want to represent your needs and desires. So I've learned through that career that everyone comes out better when diversity is part of the plan. I agree with Mr. Jenks. If you look at the data, we're not the most diverse community right now when you talk about minority status. The best thing we can do is just be inclusive. I do want to echo previous comments. I think one of the things we can do to have a better city council is to have more diversity of our residents. I think younger residents with younger families, I think people with different backgrounds add value, even if they may not have 100% of the time a retired person has value to add to the city council.
Thank you, Ms. Weebleman.
I think one of the wonderful things about Huntington Woods is its acceptance of diversity. It doesn't matter if it's one person or 100 different residents. We have we're very inclusive of all races and religions. Although, as Bob Paul said, it also extends into the different family makeups. So whether it's a single, professional, or empty nesters, I think Huntington Woods is always very welcoming of everyone. We have a wide variety of programs at the rec center, seniors, teens, the little ones, and everybody in between. So I think that although there's always room for improvement and adding variety, I think Huntington Woods does a very good job through diversity in the programs that it has.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie.
Thank you. I guess the advantage of going last is that everybody's covered a lot of the areas that I would have spoken about. But I think one of the most important things is, though the city's done a great job in trying to maintain various housing opportunities, it's the individual residents' job to welcome people into the community. And I think that we have a very open-minded community, and we've done a good job welcoming a very diverse group of people into the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we will start with Mr. Paul. And in regards to the budget and the revenue sharing from the state and taxes being held at a limit, what can we do to maintain services in Huntington Woods?
I think we've done a very good job of maintaining the services in Huntington Woods. We have consolidated, or I won't say consolidated, we've worked cooperative deals with some of our surrounding communities to help us keep our costs down, so that we can keep what we feel are the important services available to the citizens of the community. It's going to continue to be a struggle. Our taxes that we collect are capped, and we can't increase those anymore. And our expenses keep going up at a higher rate than the revenue is coming in. So we are lucky to have a very creative administrative staff here in the city that manages to find ways to get more done with less. And we, as a city commission, who sets the policies for the city, can focus on that and ask them to do that. And so far, we've been very fortunate that they've been able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sloan.
All expenditures, I feel, must be reevaluated. I'm not comfortable with some recent expenditures authorized by the city commission. Spending $250,000 on Sam's Market without first having a plan, spending $60,000 in outside legal fees for a lawsuit against Oak Park with little public awareness. The city's legal basis was weak, with a high risk of counterclaim. We've lost twice, the last time in the Court of Appeals unanimously, and now we're hoping for a third try in the Michigan Supreme Court. Half of the city pensions are unfunded, and this is a long-term issue. I would also examine all hourly contracts with attorneys, planning companies, and others. We need a committee working on grants. On December 19th, 2013, the city missed the deadline for a state grant for sewer maintenance and planning. Brooklyn Beverly Hills did not, and they will be receiving a significant grant money.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
It is a challenge. There's a limited increase in revenue again this year, so we will need to continue looking for ways that we can save money. We need to be careful about how and why we're spending money. I would echo the lawsuits, trying to weigh the risk versus the benefit of pursuing some of these legal cases. Some cases we're gambling with our city's money. I think we do need to apply for more grants. Pleasant Ridge just recently won a grant for their trees. I don't know how many grants we have applied for, but I do think that there's always room. We should be looking at every single possible dollar that we can get to fund maintenance, to fund parks. I talked with Mary Gustafson at the Parks and Recs, and she's looking at a lot of grants in order to improve some of our city parks. So I think grant money, and then just being very careful and cautious with what we're spending.
Thank you, Mr. Jenks.
One of the least expensive ways is something called collaboration. We collaborate in public safety. We collaborate with our library. We collaborate as it relates to public services. The second thing, which is the district court. We became aware of that problem when the Supreme Court itself published that we should have been given over $251,000 because Oak Park was collecting money that should have been split up. Between Oak Park and Pleasant Ridge, we lost $370,000. Huntington Woods has gone to court because it has chosen not to give away money.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
As we've gone through this campaign, there's been a lot of times people have said, hey, I've lived in Huntington Woods for X number of years. And usually they're touting a very large number. I've lived in Huntington Woods 8 years. I've lived in 2 other communities along the Woodward Corridor. And I can tell you that from my experience, I get more for my tax dollars in this city than I got in either of the other 2 cities. I think the city has done a good job delivering services to the community for the money we put in. I would hope to participate in continuing that trend. I look at things from a value standpoint. My goal is not to cut budget for the sake of cutting budget. My goal is to give people the most we can for the money we get in. It's what I do at work. It's what I would love to do here. And I think I could be helpful in that area, especially considering the amount of money we spend on infrastructure-related items, which are at their essence engineering-related items. And I'd like to provide a unique perspective on that.
Thank you, Ms. Wiebelmeyer.
As you've already heard, we have developed a few cooperative relationships with the surrounding cities. I think there's always room to share more to benefit residents in every community. This city has won awards for their budgetary excellence, and they have a stellar director of finance here at City Hall. I think the city commission should be applauded for trying to recoup the $251,000 from Oak Park. That money was collected from 1996 through 2004, and it's money that's owed to us. So I think in the end we will prevail at the Supreme Court level. Our legacy benefits are going to continue to be a little bit of a problem, and we're going to have to figure out how to address those issues well into the future.
Thank you, Mr. Laurie.
Thank you. Yes, the revenue sharing has been stagnant. There's been a slight increase in revenue sharing the last couple of years from the state. But again, it's not increasing at the same rate as the expenses are going up. dedicated to maintaining the services that our city is providing now. And yes, I think the city commission's done a great job in maintaining those, especially during the recession when money was extremely tight. I think that they did a great job. Yes, I think we need to start going after more grants and finding grant money to, improve what we have. And I'm not willing to, collaborate, and consolidate, public safety. I am dedicated to keeping our community public safety department here for the safety of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rozell.
For years, I worked in the county's Department of Management and Budget, and I teach at Open University one night a week in the graduate program, governmental budgeting and financial analysis. So I'm ready to hit the ground running on day one, looking at our budget and making sure that everybody in here is getting the most bang for their buck. There's a lot of things that make our community great, a lot of the unique services that get provided here. I think one of the things that will be on the horizon is the pension issue. We're only 55% funded on pensions, 10% funded on retiree health care. At the county, we're 100% funded on pensions and 120% funded on retiree health care. I'm an elected employee member of the county pension board, and I'm prepared to bring some of the ideas that we did at the county to get ourselves fully funded here to the city by working with our city manager and Mr. Lehman in the finance department. And I think collaboration is important, but I would not also, under any circumstances, support consolidating our public safety department with another jurisdiction.
Thank you. This will be the last question prior to the closing remarks. We'll start with Mr. Sloan. If elected, what is the one major issue you want to bring before the commission?
I think I have more than one major issue. But I want to improve the community communication. I want to not have surprises. This commission has passed ordinances surprising people without full discussion. So if I'm elected mayor, I want the commission, if they have an item up for vote, it does not go to a vote that week. There is open discussion, and then the community is sounded out as to their opinion, and then at the next meeting, we can have a vote. So that is, to me, communication, and then finances is number 1 and 2, and let's add some on the sewer and flood issue. I think we need to maintain the infrastructure continuously on a rolling basis, create expert advisory committees.
Thank you. Ms. Iverson.
So I believe that our infrastructure is very important. I would say that's first priority, is examining the next steps after we've finished our sewer scoping and cleaning to see what repairs need to be made, if there's replacement that needs to be made, and how we plan forward. Whatever we take care of here is only part of the solution. When you're looking at the other communities that share the George Walter Kuhn 12-town, or it used to be the 12-town drain, retention treatment basis capacity issues there, we have to work together with other communities to make sure we're solving the bigger problem. The budget, of course, we mentioned. In general, communicating with residents, I think we really need to make an effort to outreach. For instance, if there's something, an emergency like a flood, that we would use the mass call systems that we have in place at Berkeley, where the city can get out a message quickly, so the residents are not left wondering what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jenks.
It seems like the major issue is actually understanding the facts. We have, for at least the last 16 years that I've been on the commission, worked through 13 to 14 expert advisory committees. Those expert advisory committees have had hearings, they slowly develop stuff, they use experts. Our staff itself are some of the finest trained in the country and bring in ideas. And so, I mean, I think basically what we've got is a representative government here. And that those of you that you've elected us, we represent you, but we have a feeder team, which is a lot of people. And with that team, Instead of having a meeting with people that just walk in a room, Aaron may have skills. Someone else may not in that area. We are using experts to direct us.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Well, I will say, I hope you hear a different major issue from everybody sitting at this table. That's the best way to get the most done. If we all had the same major issue, you cannot expect a whole lot to happen, except that one issue. For me, I really would love to be engaged in the sewer issues around the August flood. While you can have experts feeding information to you, what you heard from your civil engineering experts when you had the August flood follow-up was, here's the standard way you fix this issue. They were swamped, they were busy, they probably were feeling incredibly stressed and intimidated by the concerns of the community. And that's what the answer you get. Unless you have someone inside the leadership who knows how to challenge and knows how to push, that's probably the only answer you're ever going to get. I think expert input is great, but the more diverse experts you can have on the commission, better off you are.
Thank you, Ms. Weebleman.
I think one of the most important things is going to be proactive communication plans. Luckily, I say that, carefully. As a result of the flood, the City Commission formed a Communications and Emergency Preparedness Committee. I think we have the ability, as Allison said, like with the school district, to have an automated response or outreach to residents that will either hit a smart device, a tablet or phone. I think it's important also that all of the city departments have an immediate communication with each other, so that in the case of an emergency, everybody is on the same page and knows which direction we're going to be headed in to solve the problem.
Thank you, Mr. Lord.
Well, it's easy to sit back and be an armchair quarterback, and that's essentially what we're being asked to do here. And yes, communication is extremely important. We've been very reactive recently in the city instead of being proactive in handling some of the issues that have come up. And part of that's because of communication. Yes, it would be great to be on board with the Big Mouth system, which sends out automated phone calls and using social media like Nextdoor Network and some of the other social media to get in touch with people. But I think all of the issues that we're having right now are based more on being reactive than proactive. Why do we abandon some of the sewer maintenance that we were doing? And now we're in a situation where we gotta go back and re-camera the sewer system. We used to spread gravel and tar on the roads to help maintain the roads and for a longer period of time, and I see that that's been abandoned as well.
Thank you, Mr. Rozell.
I think the two biggest issues are infrastructure and communication. With regard to our sewer infrastructure, I will leverage the relationships I have with our county commissioner, our water resource commissioner, and our state legislators to address this issue that we have regarding capacity, a combined system, etc. Issue number 2, communication. I did an online interview that's been online for a few days where I talked about an alert system that's used at Oakland University. I will bring that alert system here to the city. I will also establish a commissioner hotline that operates 24/7, so you can get accurate information about what's going on in the city. You will call in, you can press the number of the commissioner you want to leave a message for, it will send an alert, and I can immediately call you back to address whatever your concern is and get you accurate information. So I think a commissioner hotline, along with an alert system, will go a long way to get information to folks, and leveraging relationships for the infrastructure will be key as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paul.
The budget, communication, the sewer system, all hot topics, all very important. But I'm gonna take a little different approach to the question. I thought you were looking for one issue, thinking outside of the box, that we would bring to the table as elected officials. And I'm gonna say my number one priority to that is looking at the report that we received from our planners discussing senior citizen housing. And whether they come back with some ideas on barrier-free cluster homes along the 11-mile property here in moving City Hall, or I don't know what they're gonna come up with, but I think it'll be very exciting because I think it'll be nice for the seniors in our community to have an option to stay here in Huntington Woods where they love, even though they aren't able to continue taking care of their home. Thanks.
Thank you. That ends the questions, and we will have closing statements in reverse order, and we will start with Mr. Roselle.
Well, once again, I thank the League of Women Voters. I thank all of you who came. We answered a lot of questions tonight, but I'm sure we didn't get to everything. So those of you at home or those of you in the audience who didn't get your question answered, I will probably be on your doorstep between now and November 3rd, but if you can't wait until I show up, my website is voteroselle.com. My Facebook page is fb.com/voteroselle, and my cell phone is 248-719-9169. So contact me online or feel free to call me. Huntington Woods is a great community. We all love living here. I want to keep a good thing going.
Thank you.
I've been representing you for over a decade on various boards and commissions, and I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 3rd, to allow me to continue to volunteer my time representing you. Thank you.
Mr. Laurie.
Thank you. Hopefully I've been able to communicate my passion for Huntington Woods. Nothing is compared to the joy my kids have known from the wonders of the woods. They've made lifelong friends and fond memories. Every parent wants a safe, productive place to raise a family, and this is it. After last August flooding, our spotlight must be on the city's aging infrastructure. Though the city has taken recent steps to investigate sewer problem, more needs to be done. I'll work with residents to develop a long-term plan for enhanced ways to move water from our city. Next, we need to put an end to special interest ordinances that have hurt many of our residents. This would include an overreaching tree ordinance, a vast historic district expansion idea, removal of right-of-way parking spaces, and exemptions to noise ordinances. Third, I feel that the community safety is a priority, whether it's traffic safety, rodent and insect control, or continuing to maintain our own community public safety department. For a fresh perspective, please vote for Tom Lurie.
Thank you, Ms. Wiggleman.
Well, we've certainly covered a lot of topics here this evening. I hope that it's clear that I've already demonstrated my commitment to the city. I'm asking for your vote in the upcoming election to continue to serve and serve in a new capacity as city commissioner for the next 4 years. I'll continue to bring my ideas, my passion, and my commitment to help make this city an even better place going forward. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thanks to the League of Women Voters. I've enjoyed the opportunity to share all of my ideas with you. If I am elected, I will serve you with honesty and integrity. Thank you again, and vote for the League.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
Yes, thank you for coming out tonight. I didn't know how many people to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised to see people taking an interest. I hope you'll notice that I am perfectly willing to answer with a straightforward manner to any question you have. If you'd like to get in touch with me and ask something more personal to you, or something that didn't get touched on tonight, on Facebook, Elect Aaron Sullivan is the best way to find me. Email, I'm happy to pass out phone numbers, whatever you need. My passion is for the city. I would love the opportunity to exercise that on the city commission, and I'd encourage you to consider the fact that we have a real opportunity with only one incumbent and lots of open seats, more than normal, to reflect the city in a way that best suits you. And so whatever that diversity is, whatever those interests are, I think you should look for those people to be put up here and do that for you. And I hope your vote is for me. Thank you.
Mr. James.
I'd like to thank the League for presenting a panel which can present each of us objectively. I love Huntington Woods. Although I moved here by choice, I never realized how great this city was. And as I travel around the country and compare our city to other cities, it doesn't change my opinion. I give you experience, I give you legislative leadership. I will continue to offer new ideas as I'm involved around the country and around the state. I'm asking for your vote. As Aaron said, there are a whole bunch of new people, but there is one incumbent. I'm the incumbent. I would appreciate your vote. Success is not an accident. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson.
As you have all heard this evening, we all love the city. We just differ in the way that we think things should be handled in our approach. Our government has demonstrated that they believe more ordinances and more regulations are the way to handle our problems. I believe that we are a creative people and that we have to turn to the people for the solutions. Building relationships. We have an opportunity to place value back onto the reason that this city is great. Not just the homes, not just the properties, not just the trees, but the people. Thank you.
Mr. Sloan.
It's easy to get carried away with election rhetoric, gossip, and the politics of who knows who. None of that matters. What matters is how you feel about the issues and who you trust to work for you. It's not about just listening, but who will speak up for you. I want us to all refocus on our strengths, like our fantastic programs, and put aside distractions, the over-controls, and the delays. We need to stop spending money on real estate transactions and expensive lawsuits. We need to get back on the right track, because even those who say they are experienced can get complacent and make bad decisions. As your mayor, I would make sure that city meetings are more professional and less combative. If people want to come for public participation, they will not be interrupted and they will be able to talk. I want to establish a committee of professionals to focus on all sewer issues, both localized and from the county. I'd like to see an expert group of residents researching and applying for grants to help defray costs for programs. I ask that you vote for me, David Sloan, for mayor, and I look forward to seeing you at my monthly conference.
Thank you. Mr. Paul.
Again, thanks to Judy Bateman and Jerry Burden and all the members of the League of Women Voters for hosting us tonight. I'm asking for your vote on November 3rd for mayor. I have the hands-on experience and proven commitment and a desire to continue serving the citizens of Huntington Woods. I've attended dozens of meetings providing training and serving as an elected official, both through the Michigan Municipal League and the National League of Cities. I have met on numerous occasions with our representatives in Lansing and Washington, D.C., and have a good working relationship with them. I pledge my continued dedication to making decisions for the best interest of Huntington Woods. I hope that you will honor me by allowing me to continue to serve the city as your mayor. Please vote for Robert Paul on November 3rd.
Thank you. That concludes our forum. The League of Women Voters would like to thank the audience, the candidates, Huntington Woods City Clerk and her staff, the Huntington Woods Cable, which will be rebroadcast on Comcast and WOW. For further information on this forum and the nonpartisan on the candidates, please check the League of Women Voters website, lwvoa.org, and on our voter guide. When known, rebroadcast times will be listed on our website and also on the cable schedule for Huntington Woods. The League of Women Voters is funded by contributions from concerned businesses and citizens. Our membership is open to men and women over the age of 18. Remember to vote on November 3, 2015. Democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you and good night.
But I'm happy it's over.